everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome, the show where we remind you all that we shoot the shit here and we do not shoot the messenger. I am very excited to talk about the month that was February 2021, but of course, I am Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, and of course, I am with my usual group of guests here, and of course I've got the person who had Shake Shack for the very first time with both me and my wife just a little over a year ago, Stacy from Stacy's Stories. Stacy, great to have you back.
Hello.
And of course my virtual roommate over here on my channel who always reminds me to put the toilet seat down, Kami over at Kami's Corner. Kami, great to have you as always.
Good to be here once again. Hello to my constituents.
Yes, and today is a good appropriate day to also let everyone know that Kami is actually one of the new team members as well over at That's Comical, and we are very excited to see her showing up in the coming months. She is going to be the person who really focuses on the book-to-film comparisons that we do, or just the film reviews around comic books in general, but knowing Kami and the vastness of knowledge that she has, as well as her real efforts to really get some serious points across. I have a feeling that she'll be showing up a hell of a lot more on that show, but you know something? That's not a bad thing, because quite frankly, these days, if I'm making a video and Kami's not there, my watchers are very curious and hoping that nothing is wrong. So, I guess the best place to start is to, when I was originally putting the scripts together for talking about the month that was, part of me really wanted to talk about the new president and how he's doing, but quite frankly, you know what? I kind of don't want to anymore. I just am so sick and tired of watching the talking heads, and I'm just so sick and tired of everyone just going back and forth, because at this point in time, I don't think anything is truly going to get solved no matter who speaks. But there was something, thank goodness, a little bit juicier that ended up showing up in the news, and that's something that I really do want to talk about, especially because of the fact that Kami really wants me to focus and expand a little bit more upon my attitude towards Star Wars. And that was the whole story revolving around Gina Carano. And I know for a solid fact that Kami had a great deal that she wants to get off her chest. So Kami, I'm just going to give you the floor, and Stacy and I will jump in when we are able to.
Well, I want to preface this by saying I hadn't followed Gina Carano's career up until the controversy. So I just want to put that out there. I didn't know much about her in terms of her MMA fighting. I didn't know about her, what basically got her to where she's at now. So in terms of what had happened to her on her Twitter account, I'm still very green on that. I didn't go and do a lot of research in terms of what she said. I just took her at her word, and I watched her interview with Ben Shapiro. I listened to her from top to bottom, and I think it's very important to let someone speak on their own behalf. I think oftentimes in the society that we live in, other people become accustomed to speaking for you, whether they've worked with you before, whether they consider themselves your friend, a colleague, a coworker, what have you. And I think that hearing it from her, it resonated a lot with what happened to me, back in November. And there were a couple of talking points that she had said that really just stuck with me. And one of them was her strength. And I have always said that strength is one of my strong suits. It's something that I have always, I guess, attached to myself. When people say, well, what are your character traits or your characteristics, or, something that stand out about you? And I've always said that I'm a very strong person. And I don't necessarily mean that physically, although I can handle my own, and that too, in terms of lifting, not like her MMA fighting by any means, but, I can go with the flow and handle the punches. And I've always been able to do that. For the first time ever, when my situation occurred, back in November, that's the first time that I felt like I got sucker punched to the point of exhaustion. Like it just jarred me. And I think that it did so because it was people that I genuinely thought of as friends. It was people that I had surrounded myself with and I had championed for them, whether that be authors or publishers or, I could go on and on and on, companies that I had represented, and to be kind of left in the dust, so to speak, and then have complete strangers come out of nowhere and, you know, message me on other accounts and be like, hey, I'm just reaching out. I don't know you from Adam. You don't owe me a conversation, but I just want to know, are you okay? You know, I can understand where she's coming from. You know, you have all this insatiable fight within you. You feel invigorated to say something, to do something, to act on it, but you just don't have the energy to do it because you're jarred. And
Yeah.
so, you know, just again, hearing the things that she said, she obviously did her due diligence, and she spoke to different communities, to include the LGBT community, with that, from what she was labeled as a homophobic slander on her Twitter account and all of these things. And again, I can closely relate, because I have been called a number of things. I have been associated with a number of negative things that is so far removed from who I am. But I've come to find that all of the people that disassociated themselves from me, all of the people that were very critical, were truly not my friends. They weren't my people. And I loved what she said kind of towards the end of the interview, was that, you know, at some point you just have to call it, and you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to get up from this table and I'm going to go sit at a different table, and I'm going to invite new people to this table, and the people that show up to this table are going to be my people. They're going to be people that I'm going to be bigger with, I'm going to be better with, I'm going to grow. And you learn from experiences, whether they're positive or negative. So even looking back on it now, I hate that it happened, but I'm glad that it did. And she said the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
You hate to go through experiences like this, but I use the word strength because she said the same thing that I was feeling. God help anyone. I would never wish what happened to me on anyone. It's not fair. It's very jarring. But God help anyone who does not have or possess any type of internal strength to deal with something like that. Because if someone like me, who considers themselves internally strong, fell that hard and was affected that deeply, I could just imagine people that, you know, don't have that, or don't consider to have that as a character trait, you know. So it was a learning experience. I've never been a Mandalorian fan, so, you know, this didn't change my attitude towards the show. I'm neutral about it either way. I'm happy that she's found something positive to come from it. But, you know, in terms of Disney as a whole, Disney is catering on so many levels, and I could take this from so many vantage points. And I don't want to get too controversial. I don't want to open up a can of worms and make this a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
But, you know, like she stated, I'm all for power, but I'm not for abuse of power. And that happens so often to females in that industry. So my heart goes out to her, but I'm glad she overcame it.
Yeah, I mean, Stacy and I actually had a mutual friend who actually went to bat for an author because she felt that she was actually being attacked. And this was even before the whole concept of cancel culture really came out. This is when I didn't even know about things like SJWs or knowing things like people getting woke and whatnot. But it's because of that I started to learn what was really going on and that there was this culture war brewing. And the culture war really is front and center in the Gina Carano situation. And the reason why is because it's Star Wars in general. And look, I don't watch The Mandalorian either. I don't plan on getting Disney Plus because right back there is my Disney Plus. I've got every Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel movie that I want. So I'm very satisfied with my collection. And I'm also a firm believer in physical media, which is why I'm so glad that Soul is going to be coming out in March on Blu-ray and DVD. So I will be adding it to my collection. Very excited because I was so pissed off that it was only offered on Disney Plus because I really wanted to see it in theaters, by the way. So because of the fact that Soul never hit theaters, my streak about seeing every single Pixar film in theaters, that streak has yet to be broken. I want to make that clear, everyone. Still yet to be broken. But Kami, I said this in brief via text with you, but I'll elaborate a little bit on it more. Now, when I was little and growing up, I loved Star Wars. I thought that Star Wars was the end-all, be-all. But, you know, thanks to being a YouTuber and also really getting up there in my 30s and now soon to be 40s, you know, I'm looking at all of these amazing movies that I have watched from the golden age of Hollywood, and even some movies that have been coming out over the recent years. Like, I think that one of the best films to come out in the last 5 years is Parasite. I think that film is ingenious. It is so original and fresh, and because of the fact that American cinema and American entertainment is going into this woke culture, they're just so afraid to make anything bold and new anymore. So because of the fact that I've been exposed to all this stuff, I am realizing to myself that Star Wars really isn't anything special. I mean, George Lucas gave us a great story, but he can't write dialogue for crap. And you see that in the prequel trilogy. I love the prequel trilogy, by the way. The Phantom Menace, I've seen the most in theaters when it comes to Star Wars films. I have seen that movie 4 times in theaters, and I am proud of it. And I am going to say this loud and clear, and Kami knows this because she's seen it. I am the proud owner of a Jar Jar Binks plushie doll, and I am proud of the fact that I own him. But I said this after the sequel trilogy came out. I said, Star Wars has got to be put on a shelf and it's got to collect a little bit of dust, and we just have to forget about it for a while. But no, that's not happening. Now, granted, Favreau and Filoni have done a great job from what I've heard with The Mandalorian. And of course, Dave Filoni did a great job with the last season of Clone Wars, which a lot of people were very excited to have. But knowing that there's going to be 10 new Star Wars television series coming to the streaming service, and knowing that there are so many other things that are happening right now because of the Kathleen Kennedy side, specifically as I talked in That's Comical with Daniel earlier this month, we talked about a new comic book called Star Wars: The High Republic, and we both thought that it was boring as hell. So the point that I'm making is they're just not stopping. They're using their power to just take these franchises and milk them for all they're worth, because clearly all they really care about is the money. But at the same time, I can refute that by saying if they really cared about the money, they wouldn't be doing all of these things in regards to catering. I mean, look at what just happened over the last, I don't know, 72 hours. Look at what Hasbro did with Mr. Potato Head. Look at what Warner Brothers just recently announced with Superman. Now, I have a couple of ideas, as well as a lot of other people in the comic book community, that can actually go in the right direction. But the reason why it will go in the wrong direction is because they have a crap producer, and they have a script writer who has said clearly that he hates America, he hates white people, and he thinks nothing of first responders for 9/11. So the question really comes down to it. Why are you doing this if you know that it's going to crash and burn? And Gina Carano has basically showed us that this is what's going on behind the scenes. She revealed the bullying, basically saying you have to think this way or you're fired. That's basically what they're saying. And I think that that's flat out disgusting.
Think about, though, also, and I know this is a completely apples to oranges comparison, but think about when the Me Too movement started, and you had, you had a spearhead at the front and center of that. And everybody was just completely flabbergasted that, all of these accusations, because that's what they were at the time, were coming forward, in some cases 20, 25, 30 years after the fact. And I feel that, Gina was basically treated like the spearhead of this movement, in that, talking about being conservative this day and age, calling for a movement to basically cancel the counselors, as Ben had put it in the interview, and to showcase that although you might be the star or one of the heads of something like a show that's very popular, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're safe in this industry. Hollywood is very cutthroat. It always has been. And I have said this since even before what occurred to me in November happened. I would rather be loved for who I am, than hated for what I'm pretending to be. You know, there's no need for people that I am giving my energy and my time to feel that they own me in any way or shape or form. If I develop a business relationship or a partnership or a collaborative effort with someone who discovers something about me, for whatever reason they don't agree with it and they choose to use that against me and not want to work with me, that's their personal choice. But we need to get out of this mindset that we rally behind each other to create these witch hunts and start people on fire. When, you know, just a few months before that occurred in November, to me, I was kind of the spearhead of a witch hunt towards an author, a very well-known author in the indie horror community. I was rallying behind someone who at the time I considered a friend. And I got a lot of heat from people who were on the other side of what I was rallying about, that, you know, they thought I was being unfair and that I was being judgmental and all of these things. And, you know, without getting back into that craziness, those people chose to just silently unfollow me and remove me from their social media because they didn't have enough backing to support the difference, you know, because they were on the opposite end of that. So that just shows you, the more people that you get to support you, the more power you feel that you have to be mean to people and to bully people. And I just don't understand this. Why can we just not disagree with someone? Why can we not just have differences of opinions, come from different spectrums, you know, different backgrounds, economic statuses, all of these things that individually create who we are, and still be able to work with and converse with people that are nothing like us. You know, I don't know where the mentality came in that you can only work with and talk to and support and you know, I guess highlight on your socials people that are and think like you. I'm baffled by this. So I'm very glad that she's bringing that part of it to light. And I just hope that she doesn't go so crazy, not conservative right wing. And I know that she's not making this a left and a right thing, but I've seen it happen where people start off on a very neutral playing field and then they get kind of crazy and wrapped up in that other side of things. So I'm just hoping she continues this neutrality and she uses this experience to expose the people that have maliciously attacked her versus creating a witch hunt on the other side of things, you know?
I like her. I like The Mandalorian. And my biggest thing was the hypocrisy of it, because Disney does not care about horrible people working for them as long as it's people who agree with them politically. Yeah. So yeah, I just hate the hypocrisy of it. And I mean, I could list so many instances where Disney, you know, did something horrible or hired somebody horrible or didn't fire somebody who was horrible, and yet they piled everything onto her. And something interesting somebody I know on Instagram said recently was that it seems like this whole cancel culture thing really hits women more than men. Like, we seem to really be bashing the women in these situations, and men seem to get let off the hook. And I'll say that with Disney also, because there's several Disney men that are disgusting, but you know, they still have a job. But yeah, whatever.
Okay, Stacy, I totally understand where you're coming from, and it's specifically the famous tweet that got Gina Carano where she is right now. It's that Holocaust comparison where I saw it and I understood what she was getting at, but I also do agree with a certain extent to what Ben Shapiro said. He said, and remember, Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jewish man who hired Gina Carano to join his staff at the Daily Wire. He says, it doesn't matter who you are or where you fall, a Holocaust comparison is just in bad taste in general. But the fact that she gets fired and Pedro Pascal did something similar, and he not only gets to keep his job, but they give him more work, that's where the hypocrisy comes in. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It happens more so with women getting the brunt of it rather than the men. And the funny part is this is the whole Me Too movement that is really just turning out to be It is like, yeah.
It's worthless.
It's not all women. That's what they're saying. It's not all women. And that's what really upsets me. You know?
It's so stupid. It's so backwards. It's so hypocritical. And if you want me to be on your side, don't be hypocritical in your actions. Like,
Yeah.
have a stance and stick to it. But they waffle all over the place.
Just to interject in that thought process, it's important also to kind of just touch on how she followed up to his comment about, you know, being in poor taste, is that she said, you know, that's not the first meme that I've attached something jarring to in terms of a statement, but I do this with intention. It's not that I didn't go back and look at what people were trying to say, but I am trying to get or invoke a reaction to get people to think, to not be a drone, to not be a robot, you know, and I'm definitely paraphrasing here. This is not verbatim what she said, but she's, you know, she's invoking thought within people so that we are not just regurgitating all of these things that we're being fed by the government, by the media, by social media, by our, you know, coworkers, our followers, you know, our subscribers, anything like that. We need to think and be able to think for ourselves, and we need not to be so fearful of being vocal about that. You know, I mean, everybody is commending her, or so she says, about, you know, oh, I stand with you. And the same thing happened to me in November. I couldn't tell you how many countless direct messages I received from people saying, you know, you're very brave for doing what you did, and you know, I just want you to know that I fully support you, or you know, I think the same that you do. I'm just not that brave because I don't want to be canceled. And I'm thinking to myself, so you're basically admitting that you're fake, that you're being fake on your profiles, and that just drove me nuts, you know. And again, I'm not saying this so I can get brownie points or something. I'm just saying I would rather people be their genuine true selves, and I would rather people invoke these conversations that are meaningful, you know, think logically. That's basically what she was saying. You know, why can't we invoke a response that's logical? Why can't we answer with facts versus what at the time her publishing team was encouraging her to do, is to react to something emotional with something emotional? That just continues the chaos. That just ensues the fight. And why are we doing this to ourselves? That leads to anxiety, depression, strokes, you know, all of these things that happen because we are just a big combustible ball of frustration and emotion. And 2020 certainly caused a lot of people to be awakened. I hate the term woke, but people are awake now, and they're very much cognizant that the world that they thought that they lived in prior to 2020 is certainly not the world that we live in. There's a lot of problems with a lot of things and a lot of people, but it's important to have logical conversations and give people the platform to do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is the fact that one side is not willing to talk with the other side, you know?
Nope.
They love to talk above them, and they love to be condescending, but the minute that the other side actually wants to extend a hand and actually talks, and dare I say, hit some of those people in the face with logic, that's when they literally start running around like Curly from the Three Stooges, because they have no idea how to go back at them, because they realize that they've officially been looked at, and they're officially realizing, oh shit, I'm an idiot, and I have no way to attack this person. And the other thing is, in regards to the culture war, regardless of what these Hollywood fat cats are doing with their properties or just everything in general, here's the thing. One side is going to attack your mind and just be very vocal about it, but the other side is going to attack you where it hurts the most, and that's your pocketbook. They're going to take back their money. And the minute you officially lose your money, that's when you realize you're going to make a mistake. I mean, I think that one of the best things that I heard recently was the new Superman show on the CW. It got a lot of very positive reviews. But apparently there was a little thing that happened before the show officially went on air, and it was this leftist writer that wanted to and was practically demanding to make Superman's adoptive parents black. And what happened was she screamed and she screamed, and apparently she even threatened, and she got fired because they said, we're not listening to you. And so I think now she's making a big stink about it. And I think the reason why she's making the big stink about it is because the show is actually successful. But we'll see.
I'm all for, and I've said this from the beginning, I'm all for diversification if it makes sense. But if you're just diversifying things to diversify things for the sake of diversification, then what are you really doing? You're just appeasing the masses, and at what cost? At the integrity of the project. Because when I go to see a film, or if I turn on the television to watch a show, I'm going to judge that by the gambit of things: the writing, the cinematography, the visual, the sound, the costumes, the cast of characters, the dynamic between the chemistry of the characters. So if something is just being thrown in the mix to be thrown in the mix for the sake of we're checking a box, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not giving the credit to the audience, who inevitably is funding the continuation of your project.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the recent news about the next Superman movie. What they're saying now is that this new Superman movie is going to be based around a Superman that's black. Now, let me just say this. In the world of comic books, there are already 2 black Supermen. They're from different worlds, and right now they're already planning on making like a multiverse in the DC world with the new Flash movie. So the question is, are we going to see the black Superman from Earth number 2? Or are we going to possibly see President Superman, whose name is Calvin Ellis, from Earth 23 in the world of DC? And let me say, if they do a President Superman movie, I will pay to see it because I like that character. I've read the comics. I'd love to see them actually do that. But are they going to do that? A lot of people are saying it's not going to happen. It's going to be a black Clark Kent, and it's going to be a black Ma Kent and a black Pa Kent. I think one of the funniest things was someone wrote, and a transgender Lois Lane. Seriously, if you could try any way to possibly drive AT&T into bankruptcy, I think that's how you do it. And I hope that that's not what they're doing. I would love a black Superman as long as they stick to the source material. I will see that. But if they're just going to take everything that's established from the original story by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster and change it all around, I'm not going to yell that's anti-Semitic because Superman was made by 2 Jewish guys, but I'll be pretty angry as a Superman fan. I will say that.
That's such a valid sequence of points, though, and I'm so glad you said all that. I don't need to retouch on any of it, but I think that it hits the nail on the head. If you're true to the story, then you are paying homage to the readers. And those of us that do read comic books, that's what we want to see. We live for that. I'm very much cognizant that Superman is an alien from another planet.
Yes.
There, like you stated, are 2 storylines that they can bring to life. If they do that, then they're respecting generations of readers. If you're just going to create something for the sake of creating something that doesn't really have a lot of palatability, then you're just going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, people now are hearing that if this is going to be the case, they all say they want Michael B. Jordan to play Superman. I'm like, I will be glad to see Michael B. Jordan play Calvin Ellis, President Superman. I am all for that. I would love that to death because I haven't read enough and I want to read more. You know, like I want to see the DC animated films do more multiverse films, you know, and see all these others. Like there's an alternate universe in the Superman, in the DC comic book world where all the heroes are anthropomorphic animals. The Superman equivalent in that Earth is Captain Carrot. He's a super bunny. I want to see that. There's just so many great things that DC Comics has to offer, and they just got to get the right people behind it. But anyway, I don't want to go further than we are, but the point that I really want to make right now is, right now Star Wars is in serious trouble, and it's such a pity because of the fact that a major anniversary is coming in 2027. It's Star Wars 50th anniversary, and believe me, if Star Wars was in the place where it wasn't, if Star Wars wasn't where it was right now, believe me, I would be so excited to celebrate it. But quite frankly, I think it's going to be such a horrible thing for this franchise because the fans have just been shit on so much ever since Kathleen Kennedy decided to do what she did with the franchise, that a franchise that deserves a massive 50th anniversary celebration like no other is not going to get it. And it's very sad to me that that's going to be the case. But anyway,
I think that the true, genuine Star Wars fans are going to show up. I think they'll be there because, I mean, obviously, again, that you're talking about a generational hand down, where kids and grandparents and parents alike, they're all sharing the joy and the love of Star Wars. But I think that we have become a society of now that we have just catapulted the Star Wars universe in such a way that we are producing all of these things. And just because you're mass producing things doesn't necessarily mean that the output is going to be a winner every time. Sometimes you're going to get crap, and I think the joy of where Star Wars started, and before we saw the prequel, you had enough time in between to really miss it, to enjoy a new beginning. And
yes.
Now you don't have time to blink between all of these shows and all of this new production. And so you're basically like, what's going on? And I don't know, it's watered down crap, basically, and again, I'm not speaking to things I haven't seen, because like I told you, I'm not a fan of of stuff I haven't seen. I can't speak on that, but I just feel that maybe if they take a step back, when we do hit 50 years, the fan base will be there and they'll be excited. But right now it hurts my heart to know that there's such a big cloud over the Disney as a company, that I'm really scared to see where it's going to take Star Wars to its 50th. Where are we going to be as fans?
Well, the truth of the matter is, if Kathleen Kennedy gets fired before the 50th anniversary, the fans will definitely be coming back. But I do want to talk about a movie that actually celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. And it's a movie that I know the three of us absolutely love. And of course, because of the fact that it was this anniversary, I decided to watch the 1971 classic Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring, of course, the great Gene Wilder. Now, I also want to state that I do have a very soft spot, as Kami waves her golden ticket in our faces, with pride. I do want to say that I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Tim Burton film starring Johnny Depp and Christopher Lee, merely because of the fact that I'm a Tim Burton fan, but also you really can't put the two of them together for a comparing and a contrasting. They're two completely different stories. I give the Tim Burton film from 2005 so much credit because they really want to make it closely connected to the book. And I also think that as Willy Wonka, Johnny Depp did a fantastic job. The rest of the cast was very good too. But when it comes to the 71 classic, it's all about Gene Wilder's performance, the bright colors, the very imaginative atmosphere, the very true, wholesome family feeling that you get when you watch it. But of course, it's all about the songs. The songs are wonderful, the Candyman Can, Pure Imagination, I've Got a Golden Ticket. That's what makes this movie so memorable and so special to me. I mean, I watched that movie for the first time when I was 4 years old, and I can't even mention how many times I've seen it since, but I'm just so glad that it's like one of my most all-time favorite and influential movies, because really, if it wasn't for Willy Wonka, I would have probably never had any interest in Tim Burton films in general. I give that 71 film the reason as to why I watch all of these completely out there and innovative movies, along with Jim Henson, by the way. Jim Henson's another reason why I watch that kind of stuff.
I like it, but I think I prefer the Johnny Depp one too.
It is a good movie, though. I mean, my favorite part about the 2005 film is I love the fact that we get Willy Wonka's backstory, and the fact that his father was a dentist just adds such a whole interesting dimension to Willy Wonka's character in that film. That's what I love about that movie. It's really the story about Willy Wonka's past that really adds so much to that character.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty between both of the films. And
yeah.
I think that's why both films are so important, because they are so vastly different. You have a story with the original that is focused, as you said, around Gene Wilder and Willy Wonka as a character. But then when you fast forward to the Johnny Depp version, you have something that's closely related to the book. And I continuously sing praises to anything that's written by Roald Dahl. And I tell parents, as you're reading with your children or your nieces and nephews, it's so important to latch on to Roald Dahl because of the morals and values that are laced within those books that still are very valuable to us as adults, that you might have missed when you were a kid because you were so caught up in all of the craziness, you know. And it's a beautifully written story, but it's also creepy as hell. It really is very scary.
You know something, when it comes to a lot of children's books and the authors that write them, when it comes to turning those books into movies, I still have yet to see a film based on a Roald Dahl book that I absolutely despise, because I love James and the Giant Peach. I adore Matilda. That is just one of the most adorable films that I've ever seen in my life. And also, even though it's not the best film, the BFG has a lot of charm to it, you know?
I've never seen it.
Well, and those kinds of films take you back to your childhood, you know?
Yeah.
It's something that you think back to a carefree time in your life. Whether you read the books or not, you can closely associate those movies as they came out and just be a kid again. Not that I'm not a kid every day, but
really, I think that you're not telling the truth there, Kami, especially considering the Funko video that we did earlier this month and seeing all of those Funko Pops that you have, including the fact that you mentioned that you have a nice Willy Wonka collection of Pops that I believe you said were autographed.
I do. So yes, they were actually something I found on eBay. And of course, anytime you see something like that, you're a little bit skeptical. But this was actually an auction that was done by none other than Mr. Mike TV. And I got an autographed photo here, which I absolutely love. And this kind of just, you know, it seals it that it was a true transaction. He provided us with the certificate of authenticity. And unfortunately, Violet's pop was not signed. She wasn't at the particular signing for that, but you still get the limited edition sticker, which is numbered. It was only 375 sets of these were made. But I do have Charlie. His is done in gold, so you can see that up there. And then, of course, Mike TV himself, Veruca Salt, and lastly, Augustus.
I'm just so envious that you actually have a pop signed by Peter Ostrom. I also love his story. I like how after he did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, he just decided to just give up Hollywood. And now I don't know if he's retired at the moment, but last I remember, he's a veterinarian. I think that's such a lovely story. And also, one of the coolest things in regards to the cast is, I still remember this a couple of years back, but the actor who did play Mike TV secretly was on one of the couple of episodes of Jeopardy, and he didn't let anybody know until after he lost. I thought that was just so cool to know that he actually showed up on Jeopardy, and yet he chose to have his Hollywood identity hidden from the masses while he was doing that. And he did pretty well, too, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Paris Beeman is actually a very big advocate for keeping Willy Wonka and the spirit of Wonka alive after all these years. So I love him very much.
Yeah, I have actually decided to throw a little surprise out at the both of you before the show actually concludes. But what I want to talk about now is a new TV show that I'm watching, and I had no idea that I was actually going to love it, but it ended up being this brand new NBC show called Mr. Mayor, and it stars Ted Danson, Holly Hunter, and Bobby Moynihan. it looked really cute. I mean, there's a lot of people that love Ted Danson. I know that Stacy's someone that watches The Good Place and really loves The Good Place.
Totally recommend it.
Yeah, and I mean,
Hilarious.
I watched all of Cheers, and that was where Ted Danson was really like, where he got his massive break. But one of the few things that I did not anticipate to do when I was watching Mr. Mayor was to just have flat out belly laughs. I mean, the show is produced by Tina Fey. It is one of the silliest shows that I've ever watched in my life. But what I love so much about that show is it just attacks, in a comedic manner, politics. And like you see a lot of things like political correctness, and you see woke culture, and you see climate change initiatives, and it's just all turned on its head. It's twisted in comical ways, and it's just such a delight to watch. I mean, I'm really hoping that this show continues because it has been so long since I've actually watched must-see TV in a very, very, very long time. I have not watched NBC since Seinfeld. Well, no, that's not true. The last time that I watched NBC was when Constantine was on the air. But why would Constantine be on NBC? That is like one of the weirdest places to get a superhero show like that. Minus Heroes, though. I did watch Heroes, and I loved Heroes. That was such a great show too. But NBC has been struggling. I mean, I know a lot of people do like Superstore, but I don't watch Superstore. But Mr. Mayor won me over. I will definitely watch the next season if they make a second season.
I have to check it out.
Yeah, it's fun. It's got a lot of charm to it. If you like Ted Danson, if you like Bobby Moynihan, Holly Hunter, there's also some younger actors that I actually never heard of, but the whole ensemble is hilarious. I laugh every single time I watch it. And also, I think one of the best parts of the show is when Holly Hunter pushes Chrissy Teigen off of a podium. I kind of thought that was really, really funny because I laughed so hard when that happened. But, okay. There are a couple of things that I definitely want to talk about that I know that Stacy is going to be very excited about. And I know that you'll be excited about them too, Kami. I finally started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender because it is on Netflix right now, though I got to really start rushing to finish it because of Paramount Plus. There's rumors now that they're going to take all of the Nickelodeon properties off of Netflix and put it on their streaming service. But I'm going to buy the series on physical media. That's a definite. But this show, I always knew that it existed when it came out. I always knew that it was a good show. I never had anything against it. I just never had the time to watch it, and I'm so angry that it took me so long to watch the show because I love this show so much. There is so much depth to the show in terms of plot. There's so much depth to the show in terms of characters. I mean, you want to talk about diversity? That was a show that was able to show diversity at a time when nobody even thought about diversity. I mean, for crying out loud, there's a blind earthbender named Toph on this show, and she's one of the
badass.
She's one of the best. My favorite line in the series so far is when she points at Katara and goes, "Look here, Sugar Queen." Like, I laughed so hard when she did that. But I will say that my favorite episode is actually one that was the hardest one to watch, and it was Appa trying to find Aang. That episode almost made me cry.
Oh, I did cry. I did. I was sobbing.
It was like, oh my God, that was so emotional with so little being said in that episode.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I was so glad you saw that. I was waiting for you to see that episode, and I knew you would mention it.
Oh my God. I couldn't, I was watching it and I was just like so uncomfortable because I was just so sad. Like watching Appa so lonely, so desperate, trying to find food, trying to find shelter, trying to find Aang. Like, you could see that he was like he was dying inside with every passing day because he felt so incomplete. I was like, oh my God, show, just make them find each other already. I can't bear this anymore. Now that I'm up to season 3, I definitely am excited to finish watching this show. I mean, I love the evolution of Zuko. I love the evolution of Kitara and Sokka. I mean, Sokka's my favorite character. I love him. He is so funny. But
And Zuko's uncle.
yeah, I love Zuko's uncle. And oh
Do you
man,
know that actor died?
Hmm?
The uncle died while making the show, and so they replaced him with somebody else to finish the episodes.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that. And of course, I think that Azula is such a super bitch. I hate her to death. I
hate her.
I hate her and her pals. I hate them both
She's
so
the worst.
much. I mean, that's what I love about this show. I mean, I've spoken to so many other people about this, including some of the people that Kami and I shared a collab with when we did our Funko Pop 10-year anniversary celebration. They're both huge Avatar fans as well, and you can see how passionate they are, whether they love a character or hate a character. That's what makes an excellent show. So I'm excited to wrap it up. I'm going to buy it because I definitely want to rewatch that show. I was thinking about getting an Appa Funko Pop, but when I showed the character to Jen, she said to me, "No, Steve, you don't want an Appa Funko Pop. You want an Appa plushie." So at some point in time, I am going to hunt down an Appa plushie because she's absolutely right. These plushies on Amazon.com, they look so fuzzy, like you just want to hold them and just like you'll feel all warm and fluffy inside, you know? It's like a kitten on a unicorn pillow. That's what I love so much about Appa. That's what it reminds me of. But I want to ask you a question, Stacy. Did you see The Legend of Korra, and is it worth watching?
Yes and yes, in my opinion. Especially, if anything, watch the very first episode of it, because in the first episode, you get, like, they show you what happens later on to, like, some of the characters from Avatar. So you get to see, you get to see them as, like, old, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely
really
have
cool.
to watch you have to watch the first episode. My husband didn't like the Korra series. He said it was like way different feeling than the Avatar, but I liked Korra and I liked the way it was drawn and how it looked, but I definitely liked Avatar better.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do say. So yeah, I'm glad. And the other thing that I did was I sort of did like a martial arts triple feature over this past month. And it all started with the new DC animated movie that just came out on DVD and Blu-ray, which is called Batman Soul of the Dragon. Kami and I are going to be talking about this one very soon on one of our future episodes of the DC Animated Film Live Show. And I really didn't know what to think about it when they were making this movie because the DC Animated Library is going in a very interesting direction now. We got a very interesting Superman film called Superman Man of Tomorrow. Not the best, but it had a lot of interesting things that happened in it. Kami knows because she watched it and we reviewed it. But this was all about Bruce Wayne in the 1970s and a whole bunch of a cast of characters, including Lady Shiva, Bronze Tiger, and this character that I never even knew about, which was basically DC's answer to Bruce Lee in Richard Dragon. The guy who voices this character, Richard Dragon, is the guy who plays the chairman on Iron Chef America. I thought that was pretty funny. But I gotta say, Batman Soul of the Dragon is everything that I love in certain types of movies in one. It had the spy vibe, so it felt like the James Bond movie. It had Batman in it, and it had the martial arts, and I love martial arts, which is why after watching that movie, said it was time for me to finally watch the 1973 Bruce Lee classic, Enter the Dragon, and that was a fantastic movie. I mean, I've always been a fan of Bruce Lee, regardless of whether I've seen his movies or not. I know that he was the icon that he was. He revolutionized and brought martial arts to the mainstream. And I mean, he's responsible for the Kung Fu B movies that basically ran throughout the 1970s in America. But there were so many other things that happened in popular culture into the 80s, 90s, and even today that are because of Bruce Lee. Kami knows that one of them is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The other one is the Power Rangers. And Bruce Lee is the reason why martial arts is such a popular thing here in the United States. I mean, look, we're getting a brand new Mortal Kombat film. I saw the trailer. It looks fantastic. So I praise Bruce.
I am ready. Ever since I've seen that trailer, I have been on like this Mortal Kombat high. It even caused me to go and play the video game for a little while.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I mean, it was supposed to come out last year because they were going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the 1995 film. I saw that movie twice in theaters. I love the original film. And quite frankly, you know, there are very few good comic book movies. There are very few video game films that are just done well. I wouldn't say that Mortal Kombat is a great film, but they were true to the video game story, and they did an excellent job bringing the first video game to life. Duncan Jones's Warcraft is a fantastic film because they really stick to the elements of the video game and the lore. And I have to admit that I was a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I had no intentions to see it in theaters, but I had to give that film support because they actually took the movie and brought it back to the drawing board, reanimated Sonic to actually look like Sonic, and they gave us a good movie. And now everyone is so excited for the sequel because everyone's excited to see Tails.
That's what I'm excited to see, Tails. And his flocked Funko Pop came out with the Target Con yesterday, and
nice.
That's what I went on a hunt for, and it was sold out. I was like, dang it. But the movie was okay. I don't think I was fully on board with Sonic until the end because of Robotnik. I'm like, Robotnik just doesn't have the feels of the video game. And then you see the transformation, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for this. I'm here for this. And it gets you excited about too. And you're like, okay, I'm on board now. But It was very endearing. Sonic was very sweet, what you would expect from that character. You would expect him to be very compassionate and, you know, just very observant. But you really do fall in love with Sonic in that movie. So I think it's definitely worth a watch.
And I gotta say that, you know, Jim Carrey, what I liked about Jim Carrey in that movie was I really think that he gave us that old Jim Carrey that we've been missing for so long. He gave us those old Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber and Mask mannerisms in some brand new shape and form. And quite frankly, after seeing that movie, I can't really see anybody else playing Dr. Robotnik besides Jim Carrey. I really thought that he did a good job.
I agree. And that was the first time that I don't feel that he was over the top. I think that he maybe subconsciously knew that he was speaking to a generation, you know, a younger generation. Yes, that's, you know, parents were taking their kids to see this, but he was also speaking to us. We were the Sonic OGs. And I think he knew that he kind of had to give us what we were looking for in Robotnik without being like crazy, like, you know, all his antics and his facial expressions and flinging himself in different directions. So I think he did very well.
And Dave Fowler as a director, a new director, I think that he really made this film with the fans in mind. Like, he really wanted the Sonic the Hedgehog fans to come and see this movie. And they did a very good job. It makes me very excited for the sequel and the rumors of the brand new CGI Super Mario Brothers film from Sony Entertainment. I'm very excited. You know what? I got to ask the both of you a question. Did you see the 1993 Mario Brothers movie?
No.
Do yourself a favor and don't. It's so horrible. I felt so bad for Bob Hoskins. I truly did. And Dennis Hopper.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's who was in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after I saw Enter the Dragon, I loved the atmosphere. I loved the James Bond feel to it. And I gave that movie a 3 stars out of 4. I don't think I'm going to watch it again, like on a whim or anything like that, but I will definitely say to people, you really need to see Enter the Dragon before you die. It's just that iconic of a movie. And because I really did enjoy it, I had to actually watch Dragon, the Bruce Lee story starring Jason Scott Lee, and I really enjoyed that movie too. I mean, I will say that it didn't really feel like the biopics that are like Oscar bound. It definitely felt more like just one of those typical movies that came out in the 90s That's what I got from that movie. And I'm also just not a fan of Lauren Holly. I think that she ruined a large portion of that movie for me. I wish they would have gotten a better actress to play Bruce Lee's wife. Everyone else in that movie, including, of course, the great Robert Wagner, was great, but she was not. She was very one-dimensional. She didn't really have much personality. I just don't understand why they went with her and nobody else.
I think it was just who she was at the time. You know, if you look back at the 90s, they tended to use the same actors in films that were just box office hits that were guaranteed to bring in a crowd, whether it was going to be, you know, like a not necessarily an A-list kind of crowd, but, you know, bring in the millions to kind of make back their production money. But Lauren Holly is like that in all her films. If you look at her, she's very one-dimensional, she's very flat, and she just comes across very bitchy, you know? So I'm not a fan of Lauren Holly. I never have been. And the fact that Jim Carrey dated her for so long is just baffling to me.
Yeah, I would also say that this is a movie that I would be interested in seeing again. I don't know if I would own it on DVD or anything, but it's also like a 3-star out of 4 movie. I really had a good time with it, and I liked them both. It just got me to really, even though I already appreciated Bruce Lee for who he was, you know, it's just really sad that he was taken from us for at such a young age. It's really, really sad. So, look, guys, I've been talking about so many new movies and old movies that I've been seeing for the first time. I want the two of you to share, please.
I saw the Wolfman, the 1940s Universal Monsters Wolfman, which was good. Not my favorite of the monster movies, but it was good. And 10 Little Indians, which was black and white murder mystery based off of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and I really liked that movie. That was good. And there's a bunch of other versions of it. That movie has been remade a billion times, and I'd like to watch the other versions too, and continue on watching the Universal monster movies.
Yeah, you see, I haven't watched any of those movies yet, but I have seen Lon Chaney, Bela Lugosi, and Boris Karloff playing those monsters in one movie, and it was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And I still remember being a little kid going to Blockbuster. Here I've officially aged myself, but I think that that's very much an understatement these days. But I remember going to Blockbuster Video and picking up all of the old Abbott and Costello movies and just watching them like dozens and dozens of times, and like renting them like multiple times because they're just so much fun. I love Abbott and Costello, and just getting the star. I mean, like, wow, you talk about movies these days with star power. That's OG star power right there.
Definitely.
Getting all those famous names to be in a comedy. That's amazing.
And they didn't like each other either.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I really want to know what went behind the scenes in regards to making that specific film. Like, I really want to know how these classic men of horror felt when they were actually asked to play their roles, but you're going to be working with Bud Abbott and Lou Costello in a comedy. I really want to know how they felt, because one of my favorite Tim Burton movies is Ed Wood. And watching what Bela Lugosi was like even before he passed away, like, I was watching that movie a couple of times, like saying, how did he end up in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein? He seems to be the type of person that would have never done that movie.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them too. Those Universal monsters, there's a shit ton. So I'm going to be going through and watching all of them. So I'll get to the Abbott and Costello ones too. They'll be lumped in there.
Oh, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, me too. I'd love your thoughts on some of those movies. I mean, I still remember when I was in day camp and I was a counselor in training, and me and my friend for the staff talent show did the entire Who's on First sketch based on the Naughty 90s movie. We had a lot of practice. I literally watched the movie and rewound it so many times and wrote down the entire script. And my friend and I, for about a month, we memorized it. And we did well. We did very well. As a matter of fact, we got a standing ovation from the director of the camp. And he actually did say, after we left the stage, he said, "We are very glad that we are videotaping these staff talent shows because we're going to be watching that sketch again."
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a good feeling.
That's one of the best. That's timeless.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting for Abbott and Costello Funko Pops.
Yeah, you know something? I'm really surprised they don't have those yet. Same thing with Three Stooges.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, but you know what? I know that Cammy's got a lot to say in regards to Funko Fair, but one of the few things that I will say that makes Funko the company that they are, and that's the reason why Funko Pops have survived for so many years now. I mean, people still are calling Funko Pops a fad. They can't. They've been around for 10 years on the marketplace. That's not fad status anymore. That's beyond. That's like something completely different. That's iconic at this point. But that's their strategy. They're keeping the people who love their product with them, because there are so many people that are just sticking around and waiting, because they're like saying they know that that one thing that they are craving to become a Funko Pop is going to happen. I just have to wait until it happens. Like Cammy knows, I'm still waiting for my Seinfeld line. It's supposed to come out this year, but I still don't know if it is or not. But I've been waiting since they got the rights to Seinfeld in 2013, so I'm just still waiting for it to happen.
Now, Funko is very smart at what they do. They have a great process. I think, you know, from the inception of the company with Mike Becker and handing over the reins to Brian Mariotti, I think that their collaborative minds are just all about what they genuinely love is collectors and individuals, and preserving pop culture and nostalgia and bringing that to new generations, but in new ways, you know, continuously being inventive. This goes from the inception of the company in 1998 all the way to what we see now. They're making different products and just kind of seeing how it works with the fans. And I feel that Funko is so successful because it's an affordable product, it's a tangible product, but it's fun. It's something that, I mean, it's a generational a collaborative. You know, for me, you know, I'm almost 700 strong now, but my nephew has a Funko Pop and he's so excited to tell me about it every time that we talk, even though we've talked about the same Funko Pop a million times. He's just like, hey, Aunt Cammy, you know about that Slimer Pop that I have? And I'm just like, yeah, let's talk about it, you know? And it's a way for us to just, again, you know, be who we are in our own worlds and our own collecting, but, you know, be connected in that way. So Funko is genius, and I think we're going to see it around for quite some time. I really do.
Yeah, I agree, especially just because of the fact that they don't specialize in just selling products. They specialize in buying licenses to make more products, and they've gotten God knows how many licenses. I mean, the fact that they have Disney, and from Disney, they have Marvel Comics, they have DC Comics, they have so many different television and film and even sports properties. They're just not stopping. And I just love that there's definitely something for everyone. That's what makes them such a special company. So I'm really excited.
I had the best time I have had in my adult collecting this past month in Funko Fair. I swear that was the best 9 days of my whole existence for 2021, and I cannot wait for the arrival of all of those pops. I bought more pops in, well, I didn't purchase something every day, but I bought more pops in 2 days than I probably have bought while collecting these things. So
I loved watching every single day the little tease as to where in the Funko Fair we were going to be going to next. And then, of course, you know, I was texting you all the time and I was saying to you, I haven't been broken yet. I haven't been broken yet. And then the minute they broke me, I told you. But, oh, man, I knew that when they announced the Disney stuff, we were done. I knew it. I knew it.
I just didn't realize how done I was. I was not expecting Alice. I had heard that maybe there might be a drop, but to this magnitude, I was just very overwhelmed. And then now with the upcoming Emerald City Comic-Con, I'm just even more so. You know, there was another pop added to that, plus the Disney one that I'm seeking now. So although I said 2021 is probably going to be a pretty quiet Funko year, boy, was I wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, last year was a very quiet Funko year for me personally, but this year, I think I spent the most money on pre-orders in one sitting. I think this was the very first time in one sitting I actually went into the 3-figure range. I've never done that before. So I'm just waiting for all of these new things to come. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised with how quiet Funko's really been ever since. They haven't really been giving us a lot of new things since the Funko Fair. So I'm wondering what's going to happen over the next couple of months. But you know what? If they stay quiet, I'll be completely okay with that. And I'll just be patient to wait for all that new stuff to come in the mail for me.
I'm sure they're exhausted. That was a crazy 9 days, and they put a lot of effort into it,
They
not only
did.
with their daily videos, but just, I mean, they were really thoughtful and making sure that they hit all the marks. You know, they really put something out there for every type of collector, and I thought that was probably the most fun that I had, because even though I wasn't interested in every single day, it was fun to watch other collectors get really excited about something that they had been waiting for.
Yeah. So with the Golden Globes basically closing out the month, I'm going to say that I actually did watch a movie that didn't get many nominations that everyone apparently is pissed off about. I watched Judas and the Black Messiah on HBO Max. It was okay. I wouldn't say that it was a horrible movie. I mean, I love Daniel Kaluuya. I think that he's an excellent actor. I think that Get Out is one of the most ingeniously made horror movies of the last 5 years. It's so interesting and different. But, you know, I was interested in seeing this movie because, you know, I like some of these historic things that you don't really read much about in the history books. So I was curious to see a couple of things regarding the Black Panther. So they talked about this specific man who was working for the FBI, who infiltrated one of the Chicago chapters of the Black Panthers, who had one of the most influential Black Panther leaders. And basically this guy was informing the FBI about what's going on. He basically helped them take this chapter of the Black Panthers down. And his story is very, very tragic. And I did not even know that there was an interview that was done years after all of these events took place, where he was actually asked, you know, about his feelings doing what he did and doing all this work for the FBI. What I didn't know was that at the very end of the film, they say that after the day he did that interview, he committed suicide. That is so sad.
It's horrible.
It's tragic.
Yeah, I felt horrible for him, but like I said, I wish that that movie would have been a little bit better. I mean, look, I'm all for these kinds of stories being told, but I just wish that these movies could be given to us from a filmmaking perspective a little bit better. I mean, that's why I always say this about Spike Lee. It's not that he's a bad director. Spike Lee is a very good director, and I admire the fact that he tries to push as far as he can. His biggest weakness is he makes his movies very long-winded, to the point where people just get bored. That's his weakness. And it's not just him. There are so many directors in films that are known as some of the best. But the problem is they all have a tick about them that causes their movies to be one step behind being absolutely perfect. I mean, I can't really mention that many films that are classified as perfect. I think that the one director, at least in my mind, that could truly make the perfect film is Billy Wilder. He's no longer with us, and he doesn't have an extremely large library of movies. But when you take a look at movies like Some Like It Hot, Sunset Boulevard, The Apartment, all of those movies are beautiful.
Well, I think direction and movies like that, I mean, it's subjective, because like my favorite director of all time is Martin Scorsese. But that said, not everybody likes, you know, his films. There are people that also think he's long-winded and that he's got some films that could have been cut short. So I think that where you might think Spike Lee is not exemplary, somebody on the other end of it might think that he's, you know, absolutely stellar. So I think we have to take directing and movies individually. You know, not everything is for us, And, you know, we have to appreciate the art form that they are, because I think that also and I believe he directed this as well, The Black Klansman by
Yes.
Ron Stallworth.
Yes.
Okay, that was directed by him. That movie did not do it for me either. But if you've ever read the book is very reserved. Ron Stallworth, I don't feel, did justice to telling his own story. The entire time I'm reading it, I just felt like he was holding something back. I'm like, I know there's more to this. And maybe that was true to form. Maybe that was just the times and, you know, how he was treated and how he chose, or maybe it was just even how he chose to tell his story. I don't know. But I just felt like he could have given the reader more. And I felt like there was more to the story. Same with the film. So, you know, we kind of have to be, and I know it goes with being a film critic, you know, especially when you watch and review films, you have to be critical to some degree, but it's per taste. And I think that a lot of the things that I like aren't necessarily things that you're going to like. So
I agree with
he might not be the best director to you, but somebody thinks he's spectacular, you know, and perfect.
Yeah, I mean, still his greatest film is Do the Right Thing. That is one of the best movies that he ever made. It's also one of the greatest films ever made and greatest films ever made in general. Stacy, you said you saw Tenet, right?
Yeah. And it was okay. Like, I really liked the action scenes. It was fun to watch the action, but it was completely not understandable. Like, none of it made any sense whatsoever. And I've watched lots of sci-fi movies, like, say, The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously that stuff isn't the way the world works, but you can still find it believable in the movie. But the stuff in Tenet just, to me, was so completely unbelievable. So, but I like the action scenes and I like the music.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that movie and I am going to say I liked it. I really did. But I'm also not really a big fan of Christopher Nolan, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I think that he does a lot of very good things. His cast of this film was great. I mean, I still couldn't believe that the main character who goes by the protagonist, John David Washington, I did not know. And even when I saw Black Klansman, I did not know that that was Denzel Washington's son. I couldn't believe that. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the part that makes me laugh the most was that I was watching him on an HBO show with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson called Ballers for about 3 years until I saw Black Klansman and then Tenet later on. I had never put two and two together. I loved this guy as an actor. I would love to see him get on to the same level of his dad, and I think he has the potential to do that. But, you know, it's got a good cast. I mean, look, Robert Pattinson is great in this movie. I think that that's going to be the movie, unless people actually did watch Devil All the Time. That's another very great Robert Pattinson performance. It's so weird and creepy and stuff, but him and Tenet, very, very good. Although, did you rewatch the movie recently after you saw it, Stacy, or are you done?
I only saw it the one time.
Yeah, because I bought it on Amazon Prime. So I definitely think that before I decide to have it in physical, I need to watch it at least 5 more times. Because I think when I first saw the movie, I understood it. Like, I understood the premise with the time travel and all of that. But I definitely know that I need to see it a couple of more times to truly, truly, truly understand it. I just wanted to know if you actually managed to find the second Harry Potter actor in that film. You got to rewatch the movie. It's literally right in the beginning. It's the scene where the protagonist is learning about the bullets. That's Clemence Posey, who plays Fleur in the Harry Potter films. I was watching the movie, and I looked at her, and I say, she looks so familiar. Where is she from? So, of course, I went right onto IMDb, and I was like, oh, crap, that's her. So definitely you should give that a watch just to see her. It's a small role, but she's good in it.
Yeah, I
haven't seen that movie yet. I'll
So,
put it on my to-watch list. But I did watch The Little Shop of Horrors for the first time, guys.
good old Rick Moranis. He never lets you down.
that is exactly what drew me to it. I saw him on the back of the DVD and I was like, how have I not seen this movie? And if I had as a child, it's not memorable. And I'm pretty good at remembering the things that I watched. So I honestly think that this was genuinely the first time that I watched it. And the cast was so phenomenal. John Candy's in it, Jim Belushi's in it, Steve Martin, Bill Murray. I was like, what? Why have I sat on this for so long? It was fantastic. I loved it from beginning to end. And it's funny because, you know, Funkos are everywhere. Of course, I've had this for ages. I just had no idea what the heck it was, but I just thought it was cute because it was in a coffee can. But yeah, now I understand it wholeheartedly, and I love Audrey. Audrey's fantastic. So I have the big one too, but I didn't take it out of the box. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I'm just really ashamed that I didn't watch it before. And then you were talking about history and historical, Steve. I also caught, there was a Stars weekend that I had that was given to me on my subscription service. And I watched a Civil War drama, which was really cool. I hadn't, you know, like really even heard of this, because you were kind of saying, you know, it would be nice if they would make movies that were about things that we don't really know about. So I really learned a lot. It's called The Emperor, and it was about the raid on Harper's Ferry. Oh. It was so good. It's the life of a slave who ends up killing 3 white men that were kind of in charge of the slaves on that particular plantation, by the name of Shields Green, and he kind of goes AWOL, and they're on the mad, you know, hunt for him, and then he ends up in Harper's Ferry, and it was just so well executed. I highly recommend that film.
Wow.
And that's really what cool. Set off the Civil War.
Yep.
Yeah, and I had no idea. That's what I was saying. Like, I didn't learn that in school. I don't even remember Harper's Ferry ever even being mentioned.
Right.
It's only because I grew up in Maryland, so close to Harper's Ferry, that it was taught to us. But I don't know much about the Alamo, and I'm sure you were taught that, you know?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I know a lot about the Alamo.
I couldn't tell you anything about the Alamo. It's a place in Texas.
The only thing that I know about the Alamo is that there's no basement in it. That's the only thing that I know about the Alamo.
I know I'm supposed to remember it. That's it.
Clearly, look, I know about the whole.
It's a very
No, trust me, I know about the Alamo. I know about the history.
It's a very historic time for Mexico and Texas.
Yeah, I just had to throw the Pee Wee Herman reference out. That's what I had to do. That's the only reason why I did what I said. But
oh, that's right.
Yeah, there's no basement in the Alamo. Do you remember? Right. Do you remember who says that? But do you remember who says that line?
No.
Former Saturday Night Live cast member Jan Hooks. God rest her soul.
Really?
Yeah, she's long.
I can't even picture it.
Yeah, she's unfortunately no longer with us. But like, oh my God, I was watching like a clip of it, and also, isn't the boy who plays Wayne on the Wonder Years in that movie too? I think he is.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, Jason Hervey. I think that's his name. He's also in Back to, yeah, he's also
Harvey.
He's also in Back to the Future.
Is he?
Yeah, he plays one of Lorraine's little brothers.
Huh.
Yeah, he's the one that when Marty says, I have 2 TVs, he goes, wow, you must be rich. I'm like, oh my God, it's Wayne. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, Kami has joined the cast of That's Comical, and we're really excited to have her on the show very, very soon. Kami has been talking to me about a lot of comic books that she's been reading, and I'm very glad that she's keeping me in the loop. But I did mention this specific comic book when I did the episode with Dan when we were talking about what happened in January, but I want to elaborate on it a little bit more because I really want to focus more on this specific comic book writer rather than the comic itself. So it's also because I really haven't been reading any actual books. But on a positive note, my last book of the Miss Peregrine series arrived in the mail. So I'm definitely excited to conclude the story because I love that story so, so much. I mean, I think that anyone who's a Tim Burton fan should read Miss Peregrine. Including
I saw the movie.
Yeah, and see the movie. But I will say the book is much better. So,
I have all the books, but I have not read them yet.
Kami, I'm surprised. The books are so good. And I will say, when they announced that they were going to be continuing the story with books 4, 5, and 6, I was very, very skeptical. Honestly, the fourth book of the series, to me, is the best book in the series entirely. It's really good. What I was getting at was, so I've been reading a lot of comic books since I got it back into them, and there are a lot of writers that I've known about for a very long time, and even some new ones that I was introduced to that I've truly appreciated and falling in love with. But there is one comic book author that is really starting to grow on me, and his name is W. Maxwell Prince. And it's all because of the fact that I started reading this comic book series called Ha Ha. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Each book is an individual story about a person that has a job as a clown. And the first book in the series, this is the 2nd issue, was so moving, and it was just so heartbreaking. I almost cried before I finished the first book. And ironically, it was actually kind of funny, was I was in my local comics store just the other day, and I was talking with the manager, who's really, really awesome. And there was another customer in the store, and we were talking about a lot of different indie titles. And when I talked about Ha Ha, everybody around me said, I don't like clowns, I don't like clowns. But the manager of the store actually said, I don't like clowns, but then he says, because this guy, and he pointed to me, told me how good Ha Ha #1 was. I read it for myself, and he said, I got to admit, that was a very good book. So I picked up another one of Prince's books that he wrote about a year earlier, and it's a 5-issue series called King of Nowhere. This, the best way that I could describe it, and I think the two of you can understand it, because I said the same thing to my wife and she didn't get it. King of Nowhere is as if Alice in Wonderland was written by the Coen brothers.
That's going to be a trip.
It was so weird and so out there and zany, but it was because of the atmosphere and the mystery that was around this story is what made it so interesting. It's basically this guy that literally wakes up on the side of the road, and all of a sudden a car just stops in front of him and asks him if he's okay. And the person in the car is a deer man. Like, the guy's got antlers and everything. Ironically, at the end of that issue, the guy's name was actually John Doe. That made me laugh so hard. But
That's wild.
yeah, but it's like,
That's
so
hilarious.
this guy goes into this place, this little town called Nowhere, and he befriends this fish man, and there are like all of these weird mutant human-like creatures, and the question is, where the hell is this place? Is this just this guy's hallucination? And who is this mysterious man with glasses and a nail gun that's coming into this little town and killing everybody? And why is he trying to find this guy? I'm like, whoa, this is something.
I think I'm going to like that. I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are, because, Kami, you did read one of W. Maxwell Prince's stories that I haven't even read yet. I'm planning to read it anyway. The story sounded really cool. It was called 1 Week in the Library. I was absolutely impressed that you hunted it down way, way quicker than I thought that I would.
Well, first of all, the title captured me. I was like, oh, library. Okay, this sounds fun. And the artwork is phenomenal. I love how it takes you through the story. You start on I think on a Tuesday is where we start. Is it Tuesday? And then we go through the week, and it's beautifully written. I mean, it takes stories that we grew up with, stories that we're familiar with now, and it's just a week in the library. It's very trippy. It's very much mature. It's not for kids by any means. It's a very mature audience. It takes you down a couple rabbit holes. So it starts out so strong. And of course, I'm not going to give you the ending, but I'm just going to say that I feel this was a comic that was trying too hard. Like,
Really?
He was trying to be clever. Yeah, he was. And don't let that take away from the beginning.
It
This
won't.
didn't happen until like the last 4 pages. The last 4 pages, I just felt like he didn't know what to do or how to end it. And when you get there, it will speak for itself, and you'll know what I mean when I'm saying this. But I just feel like it was a letdown to the reader because it was so good up until that point. And then I'm like, he's not going to end it like this, right? And he did. And it was just like, wah, wah, wah. So I just think he was overly trying to be clever and get a laugh out of people and make it memorable. And it kind of makes it forgettable.
Well, then that's a question that I want to ask you, Kami. It's like, is this the first of Prince's works that you read?
Yes, and that's the reason why I do want to read more from him, because I want to see if this is his style.
Yeah, because I read Ha Ha first. So I was curious to say that, you know, if I read 1 week at the library first, would I want to move on and continue? I'm glad to know that you still have the urge to read more of his work, because believe me, I would love to talk to you about Ha Ha, and I would love to talk to you about King of Nowhere, especially because of the fact that I compared it to a certain degree to Alice in Wonderland. I have a feeling that something went off in your head saying, uh-oh, I'm going to read that now.
You know how to reel me in, and that definitely will get me reeled in. Those are 2 series that I definitely will be picking up by that author. But I honestly don't think that there's anywhere for this to go, because I don't know how he's going to revive it after this. The ending just,
yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to ruin it for you in any capacity, but it doesn't go anywhere. So again, I don't know if that's his style, but weird. It was a letdown because it was so good.
Yeah, and I think that that's what makes him the unique writer that he is, because he doesn't really do that many ongoing series. I mean, he has one right now called Ice Cream Man, which I'm not going to invest in right now because it's already like 24 issues in. I just don't have the patience, but I prefer the fact that he does like these one shots, or he does these little mini series, because I appreciate the mini series in regards to comic book writing right now, because you don't have to invest in so much and you get that complete story. I mean, I'm going to focus on all these types of writing styles and marketing when we do more episodes of That's Comical, but before we officially close this out, unless there's anything else that anybody here wants to add.
I'm good.
So I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of this year, because I really want to watch some of my personal favorite films like Willy Wonka that are celebrating anniversaries this year. So I actually pulled out, this is the surprise, guys, I pulled out a stack of movies that are celebrating milestone anniversaries that I'm definitely going to be watching. And if you want to jump in and watch them with me every single month, please feel free, because I want to watch the 40th anniversary of Porky's. Really excited to rewatch this movie because I love it so much.
That's not PC. The woke crowd will not like Porky's.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch. It's celebrating its 40th anniversary. Stripes, starring Bill Murray and Howard Ramis and John Larroquette. So excited! One of my favorite movies. Gotta watch the 25th anniversary of Beavis and Butthead Do America. So excited to celebrate this movie's anniversary.
Beavis and Butthead are 25.
Just the movie. They're actually older.
Oh, God.
A movie that I actually talked to Kami about that she has not seen. It's the 25th anniversary of The Birdcage, the Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, truly underappreciated comedy masterpiece. This is one of Robin Williams' best performances. I love this movie to death.
Yeah,
I don't know why I haven't watched it. I remember it came out, I was like, what, 14 or 15, if I'm remembering the year correctly. And it just didn't appeal to me, even to the point that when we were talking about it just a few days ago, I didn't even remember Robin Williams was in it. It's just, the story didn't really sit with me. I'll watch it. Now that you've sold me on it, I'll definitely take a gander with it. But at the time, I don't know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. It didn't really appeal to me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a specific movie, which is the last one in this bunch. I want to save this for Halloween because it's only appropriate that we talk about this movie on Halloween, but it's also this year is the 20th anniversary of Donnie Darko.
I've never seen it.
You've got to see Donnie Darko. This is one of the greatest movies ever made, hands down. It is so trippy. Great cast. It's one of the very first movies that Jake Gyllenhaal was in. It's even got Patrick Swayze, if you like Patrick Swayze.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, Kami, you've seen this, right?
Yes, I have.
Oh, it's so good,
Actually,
isn't it?
own that. Yes, it's one of my faves.
Yeah, so that's my Halloween fan favorite that I want to discuss like in October. But anyway, everybody, that's going to leave it for another episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome. And I'm really excited to have you all back here in just a couple of weeks where we discuss another month that was, which of course will be March 2021. And I'm actually getting a little bit excited just because of the fact that there's going to be a lot of cool things to talk about, because I wouldn't be surprised if a certain movie called Justice League, the Snyder Cut, gets a little bit of a talking about, because we will be definitely talking about it after the movie hits HBO Max. I cannot wait. I'm literally counting the days. But I'm really excited for all the other stuff that we're going to be talking about. But in the meantime, everybody, thank you all for watching, and we will all see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.